Thank you so much, Amity. Welcome, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. This commitment to environmental action and environmental kind of responsibility on behalf of the schools is so important. I get reminded by that often by my 14-year-old son, who reminds me about the deep implications for all the little decisions that we make. And one of the things that Amity and I talked about is that there are so many amazing things that are already happening in Santa Cruz County, and the commitment to be environmentally responsible and to be stewards of our environment runs really deep here in our county, and we can learn from each other. And this is really what these forums these working groups are really all about. So really grateful to have you be a part of this. Thank you for all that work, especially right now when we are distracted by a lot of the other things that are going on in the world and in our schools. We have to keep focused on the long-term plan, and that long-term plan is all about student success, about wellness for our students, and of course, having a world that is worthy of the students, that as they continue to develop and move into their careers in the future. So thank you so much for being a part of this, and I really just I'm so grateful that you're able to make time for this. Back to you, Amity.
Thank you, Ferris. And I just want to echo the gratitude for you all making this a priority, especially in the current circumstances we're in. It says a lot. So thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So we wanted to start off, of course, with a land acknowledgement. Some of you are probably familiar with this land acknowledgement, co-created by our Amamutsan tribal band, as well as the UCSC Relearning Garden at the Arboretum. It says, the land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Awaswa-speaking Wipi tribe. The Amamutsan tribal band, comprised of the descendants of indigenous people taken to Mission Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during Spanish colonization of the Central Coast, is today working hard to restore traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical trauma. And land acknowledgements, for those of you who haven't had them as a part of your practice yet, they're statements that recognize the presence, the continuous presence of indigenous people and their thousands of years of stewardship that they've performed for us, for our homelands, which are their traditional homelands. And land acknowledgements can really help raise awareness that our indigenous communities are still here. And we also wanted to let you know that the Native Governance Center has great guidelines for land acknowledgements, but they've also created a guide to going beyond land acknowledgements to encourage organizations to take action and create action plans that will directly impact their indigenous communities in positive ways. And I was reminded of one great story recently that came out from our local Santa Cruz district's state parks. They just signed an MOU with the Amamutsan tribal band to work together on their stewardship plans for state parks in our region, which is a pretty incredible positive action to take. So encourage all our organizations to think about what actions in our sphere of influence we can take that will have a positive impact for our Indigenous community.
Amity, real quick, you have something blocking the title, so I'm not sure what that is. But
that's the toolbar, and my computer has been doing some strange things where those toolbars that are supposed to be invisible still show up. I just moved it to the bottom.
That's better.
And then
sorry.
Yep. No, thank you for letting me know. And now the same thing with the participant list there. Have to get rid of that. So something was wonky with my computer, which was why we opened right on the dot at 4 p.m. I'm having sound issues, so I'm on my phone for the audio because my computer is not doing sound well. So anyway, we'll keep going, making it work.
And I'm putting links in the chat for anytime that there's links, I'm sticking them in the chat. So if y'all have the chat box open, you can see those.
Great, thank you. And today's agenda is basically to start off with our why for this work. Why is greening schools important to us and to our students? And how do we achieve that? What do green schools look like? And then actually hear direct from folks who are doing this work to help us see what that work looks like in reality, and bring in some community partners who can really provide amazing support to schools in greening their facilities. This today's session is focused more heavily on facilities. And then we'll have some time for small group discussion at the district level before closing. So starting off with why we're here, we wanted to give you all a chance to speak a little bit about your personal why for this work. Why green schools? What motivates you to do this work and to be here when you have so many things competing for your time and energy in your work as educators? And so this poll will create a word cloud. So if you either go to slido.com on your device or just snap a picture with your phone of the QR code, it will lead you directly to the Slido survey, and just try and distill down your why to a single word or phrase of what motivates you to be here and to try to green schools. And you can enter more than one why, because I'm sure that there are multiple things that motivate you. So you just enter in the word or phrase, and it will start to populate the word cloud. We had one person accidentally put in the number for that poll. Oh, and it's interesting to see the word cloud when people submit the same answer, you end up with the larger words. So we definitely see a trend here for youth in the future. Not a surprise among this group. Thank you all so much for sharing. All right. You can keep entering those if you're still figuring it out, and I will collect them and email out the final word cloud in the follow-up from the session. So just move on to the next slide here. Well, it's not wanting me to move for some reason. There we go. Okay. So the why that was biggest, along with the future, was our students. And I knew that that was going to be a big one. And so we wanted to make sure that we had the students' personal why as a part of today's meeting. And so Youth for Environmental Action made a video. Youth for Environmental Action is the County Office of Education's high school leadership team that brings together representatives from high schools across the county to address issues they care about. So this group's focused on the environment, and their purpose is to connect students who care about the environment together to take action for the future. And they want to increase school sustainability and work with school leaders to help facilitate change in our system. So I'm going to play this video. This was what was challenging us earlier. I'm going to have to stop my sound on my phone and unmute my computer. So just 1 second here.
My name is Emily and I go to Kirby, and the Green Schools group is really important to me because it's really important that kids learn from a young age, like while they're in school, that taking care of the environment is really important. And if they get in the habit of that when they're young, they will just continue doing that throughout their life. And climate change is such a big thing happening right now, and it's really scary to a lot of young people. And I think if their schools were helping to combat that issue, well, less anxiety about climate change.
It's just crazy busy.
Leaders are like, listen to your students, what they want you to.
I love what I'm doing, so.
That they have issues that they've noticed on your campus, and I would just like to share how it's really, it causes me a lot of anxiety, climate change, and I feel that if schools, instead of just ignoring it, like took it head on and was like, what can we do to help this? And it would really help a lot of young people.
I'm Mara. I go to Santa Cruz High. Emily couldn't have said it any better. Really, it's the more people know about the natural world, the more they care. And I think the best way to reach as many young people as possible is through schools. So I think what I would want to tell Green Schools is to really get the students involved in whatever efforts you're doing so that they really have a part in it, and hopefully they can carry that passion after they graduate. My name is Emily. Green Schools are important to me because school is a place where you go to learn, and what you learn, hopefully you're excited about and you share with other people. So if people are like talking about climate change or like just, you know, green composting, anything at their school, they'll bring that back to maybe their home, their friends, their family. So that's really valuable. It will spread awareness. And I guess in terms of what school leaders can do, I would say what Emily and Mara said. I think just listen to the youth and what we have to say and the changes we want, and be willing to make those steps to like go in the right direction. So not like just be willing to take that action. Thank you.
I'm Shay. I go to Harbor High School, and Green Schools is important to me because I think that it's really, really important to get the youth educated about the environment. I really think that there needs to be more focus on schools teaching youth about how we can impact the environment in our own communities, within our own schools, doing composting, as others have said. I think that mycology is a really important benefit to growing up in Santa Cruz, especially, where there's so many big names that are from here and work here, where we just need to get involved more with communities like that. I think that advice that district teams could gain from me as a student is that I really think that, just there needs to be more education. There needs to be more education. There needs to be more action based on that education. And if not any of that, at least give funding to those who want to pursue that education and action. And if none of that is possible, then I don't know what we can do to work with a Green Schools group and develop green practices within our campuses, but just really want more ecological activism around Santa Cruz and within the district. Thanks.
My name is Adamlee Harwood, and I'm from San Lorenzo Valley High School. Greening schools is an important cause to me because students' futures rely heavily on their schools. If their schools implement more environmentally friendly practices, they'll be introduced to a new normal and hopefully utilize similar practices in their adult life. My suggestion for my school leaders is to agree to greening schools and make an effort to visibly reduce energy and water use, fossil fuels, etc., so that students recognize the importance of these actions and have the opportunity to reflect on their own consequential decisions.
I'm Zahir from Aptos High School. Green schools are important to me because schools are a major influence in students' lives. So, adding on to what Evan said, it creates a new normal for them, and it implements like environmental. They'll be more likely to care more about the environment if they see that the adults in their lives are practicing healthy things. And my suggestions for the school leaders are to make sure that student voices are heard in the programs, and to also limit carbon footprint and environmental damage.
So there you have it, our schools, our students' perspective, and that they're, I know that districts are doing a lot, but in my work, I get to be this wonderful position straddling between districts, between the county, between schools, between students. And I think they don't always know how much districts are doing. So there's an opportunity there to really try to build more connection with students and bring them in as allies. Because they will be thrilled. All right, so we just shared why we feel personally motivated to be here. We heard from students about why this is important to them and why now. There's actually a lot of reasons to do this work right now. And one is that our current circumstances, if there's any silver lining to the pandemic, it would be that we've seen what we can all do when we work together on really challenging issues for our community. And so this is one of those opportunities for us to come together. And we've also seen how much more flexible our school system can be than we ever thought possible because of COVID. And that kind of flexibility is exactly what we need to embrace in order to address the environmental challenges that we're facing for the future. And so this is a great time to just really embrace change and think about the environment and how we can wrap that into all of the new plans that we're making to do school differently. And we also have a lot of guidance and even mandates from the state level, both around the campuses, the environmental policies and guidelines that are pushing us toward green schools. California has passed state, Senate, and Assembly bills that require reductions in waste, emissions, and energy use, and as well as environmental literacy standards that are embedded into our curriculum and instruction. We have a state blueprint for environmental literacy within the K-12 education system. So there's visionary guidelines for us. And the standards in particular have really shifted lately. Hopefully you've all heard about the environmental principles and concepts that were adopted by the state years ago in our Natural Resources Code. But in 2018, those environmental principles and concepts, which are really about how human systems and natural systems are interdependent and influence each other, those principles were moved into the education code. And because of that legislation in 2018, that triggered their integration into all of the curriculum frameworks and future textbook adoption criteria. So they're currently integrated into the frameworks for science, history and health, and the visual and performing arts, which is, sorry for it being hidden by that gray box, and math and ELA will be have those environmental principles and concepts fully integrated into those frameworks by 2023. And so moving forward, our curriculum adoptions will include those criteria, and the testing systems for those will include environmental principle and concept items as well. And so there's plenty of why we've talked about. And so we wanted to move on to the how. How do we create green schools? And looking at some of the frameworks is a good starting place for that. As inspiration, sustainability frameworks are, there are many to choose from, but I narrowed it down to a few to think about today, and we'll follow up with others as well after the meeting. And we'll be giving you links. They're linked in the later slides here. But I wanted to start off just sharing a couple frameworks that have these different focus areas, which can be really useful entry points for environmental literacy and sustainability efforts in schools. So districts or schools can use these focus areas to self-assess, to establish specific goals, and to design sustainability efforts, depending on which of those focus areas are particularly relevant to initiatives you have happening in your district. So you can look at where you have some synergy already and move things forward in an area, and then also identify where maybe you're lacking and start to make baby steps toward getting more done in those different areas. And they're also relevant across this Green Schools pillars, these kinds of frameworks, which is helpful because Green Schools are not just about a sustainable facility, and they're not just about teaching environmental content. The idea is that you're integrating opportunities to create a more sustainable future across those pillars of curriculum, campus, and community health. And then another framework that's useful is the Green Ribbon Schools recognition program. That's a national program, but also has a California state level application. And we have Green Ribbon School awardees here in our county who will be speaking, and also some that are going to visit and speak as part of the panel. So this is an award program. It's not an award that comes with funding, but it comes with recognition. And you can do it for the award, but actually what's useful about it is that it forces you to really assess the reality in your school or district in these three pillars. So it outlines the questions in these three pillars, and basically you're looking for your progress in pillar one with decreasing your impacts on the environment directly, your waste production, water use, energy, and your carbon footprint, and then looking for an increase in healthy, positive practices and education that is tied to environmental literacy. And the
I'm sorry, there's somebody in the waiting room. Can you let them in?
Oh, yes, of course. Let me see where that is. Okay, there we go. So in pillar one, which is focused on reducing environmental impact and costs, that covers energy efficiency, water conservation, waste reduction, and alternative transportation. And there'll be items or questions in the application on all of those areas. And then pillar 2 is about improving the health and wellness of schools, students, and staff. And it addresses both school environmental health, like air quality and how you manage your pests and grounds, but also health for humans in terms of nutrition and fitness, and even social emotional learning connected to time and outdoors, because there's lots of research that shows those benefits. And then pillar 3 is about providing effective environmental and sustainability literacy for students. So interdisciplinary learning, STEM knowledge and skills as they relate to the environment, and then also civic knowledge and skills. So there's a great opportunity to connect more with the history content and curriculum. And then another framework or program that's useful to think about and is local is our Santa Cruz County Green Schools program. So sometimes people get confused about the Green Ribbon Schools, which is that state or national recognition. That's like getting a Distinguished School Award. You can get the Green School Award, but we have a separate program that's run by our county, not our county Office of Education, but Santa Cruz County government, in that recognizes green schools through a certification process. And oops, sorry, didn't mean to hit that. I just saw someone come in the waiting room. And so this program is also, again, like the other frameworks, multi-pronged. So it includes both a facilities focus and also a curriculum focus. And we'll have a presentation from one of the organizations that's key to providing the guidance for the waste and water and energy audits that are part of the Green School certification process. We'll have a presentation direct from her that provides more details on this program just in a little bit. But before we get to that presentation, we just wanted to move on to our panel that we have today. So I'm really, really excited to have you all hear from people who are doing this work, so you can hear what it sounds like and looks like in action. We have guests both locally and from outside of our county. And again, we're focusing on this meeting more on the facilities pillar. So we'll be talking more about facilities in this panel, and later on do more of the health and curriculum discussions. But I just want to thank our guests so much for being here and making time to share their work. I'm going to let them introduce themselves as we go through hearing from each of them. And we'll start off with Santa Cruz City Schools, the first district in our county to get Green Ribbon Award status quite a few years ago now. And one of the longest, I think the longest running Green Schools Committee in the county as well. Their district has a Green Schools Committee that's been meeting for years. And so I'm really thrilled to have Jim Monreal and Trevor Miller here to share a bit about what it has taken for them to move this work forward, and any advice they have about the work and for districts that are getting started. Jim and Trevor, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Amity. This is Jim Monreal. I'm the Assistant Super Business Services for Santa Cruz City Schools. And my boots on the ground, the one that really makes us look good, is Trevor Miller, my Maintenance Operations and Transportation Director for the district. I'm going to just give a couple of quick insights in my role. As Amity mentioned, we do have a formal Green School Committee that I kind of coordinate on behalf of the district through the superintendent. One of the key components that has led to the success is we actually have tremendous support from our board of directors in this process. In fact, back in 2007, we passed a Green Schools resolution that was supported by the board with a 7-0 vote that really supported this piece in creating some of the action that we've taken as a district in moving forward. And as far as the Green School Committee itself, we actually have 3 board members that attend the meetings that we have, a minimum of 3 to 4 meetings per year. We have individuals that have crossed the committee that range from, of course, myself as the superintendent, Trevor from MOT. We have our food services director, Amy Hedrick-Farr. We've recently been joined by Assistant Superintendent Coito to really look at expanding some of our educational opportunities and working and really reinforcing what we do already as a district. And really look at opportunities of how we can become better global citizens in this process. As many of you are well aware, our school sites in our district were built predicated on utilizing fossil fuels as a major source of light and heat and air. And so some of the ways that we have been making progress is the utilization of solar energy, better water opportunities, drops programs where we try to use it as an educational tool within this piece. And so it really does assist us as a district that we have tremendous involvement from the board, from administrative staff, but we also have it from teachers at different sites. We've had involvement from students across the district. And then recently, based upon, again, the student involvement from the county group, there's, again, an incentive from the students to see what we can do to preserve the environment and the learning opportunity for students. And that's been some of the ways that we've been extremely successful. In fact, going forward tomorrow on behalf of the district is a new solar energy plan that's also going to be tied into enhancing some of our HVAC equipment to the tune of about $6.8 million, with the majority of that being solar shade structures and solar energy usage. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Trevor just to create some ads of what we've done throughout the district at this time. Trevor, go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, as you can gather, we cover a lot of ground. What I found in my years with the district in getting these things done, aside from obviously having great support at the board, which I think is critical, because all these things cost money, even the simple things cost money, time and money. So, but the board policy, we have a board policy also that basically directs me in my everyday purchases and decisions in looking for opportunity to go green. Our green schools, they were all done grassroots from the school sites. I didn't have much involvement in that other than some support information where I could provide it. My role generally is in the larger things like the upcoming solar projects. We've gone out for grants and other things to try and electrify our fleet. We would have a lot more electric buses and vehicles right now if we could buy them. Currently, we can't buy them. So that's slowing that down. But just even the simple things like changing our custodial equipment and chemical usage to, greener, more cost-effective, and in the packaging, as simple as the packaging. We use one where literally there's these little plastic biodegradable plastic satchels that weigh 1 to 2 ounces that produce 1 to 3 gallons of cleaners and disinfectants. So rather than all those 1-gallon jugs of plastic everywhere, while some eventually do get recycled, a lot don't. So we've done things all the way down to that level. The cleaning equipment. We've bought cleaning equipment specifically for our large hard surface floors that doesn't even use any chemicals. It simply ionizes the water up to a temperature as well, and fine mist the floor and sucks it right back up again. Beautiful, clean gym floors, corridors with no chemicals whatsoever. We changed our service fleet from, larger V8 pickup trucks to small vans and smaller trucks. Now we're looking to electrify the fleet, as I said earlier. We just can't buy anything right now. So those are all the things that we're constantly doing. Every time we make a purchasing decision, we look at what opportunity there is to buy something, to utilize something that's greener or uses less energy, in some vein along those lines. So again, it's constant, absolutely constant. And the other constant is the need for money to support all these bright ideas that we come up with.
Thank you for that. I love hearing about how did you end up with a board directive about the purchasing decisions? Did that come from a specific board member, or?
That happened before my time, but I would assume that there was definitely some board involvement there, whether it came from a specific board member or not. My guess is it probably originated back when the original Green School started, because I know there were board members involved from the beginning. And that's, again, having a board member involved at that level allows them to understand the details, to understand the benefits. So even though sometimes there's costs, there are benefits. Sometimes it's just simply a moral benefit, and the costs are the costs. And sometimes it's a financial savings as well, so double bonus. But there's always a reason to do it. So yeah, having the board members, part of it was definitely, I would say, critical. I don't actually know the answer to the specific question, but that would be my assumption based on what I've heard.
Thanks. No, that's great. And I think we'll go ahead and move on to hearing a little bit from our next panel guest, Richard Reed from the County Office of Education, because it really will connect well with what you were just talking about, Trevor, facing those purchasing decisions and figuring out where the opportunity is to be more green in your decision making. So Richard is from our County Office of Education and comes from a school before this, an outdoor school actually. So outdoor science schools are definitely very invested in the environment. And so they had a LEED certified building. And then he's come to our county office, which hasn't even quite yet been green business certified. And so it's been a big shift. And so I was hoping he could share a little bit about what are the first steps to take when you come to an organization that is just working toward that green certification. And if there's any advice you have for folks about low-hanging fruit or the most impact for your effort at first to get things going and buy-in, and also about working with maintenance staff, how to keep them a part of the process. So share your wisdom, Richard. And go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit too at the start, because I didn't give a very good background.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me, Amity?
Yep, that's great.
Perfect. My name's Richard Reed. I spent the first 20 years of my career working for the Santa Clara County Office of Education. And I enjoyed the first 14 years working for Walden West Outdoor School. And my role there was to provide the green facility for the school. And working for an outdoor school is great because that's everything that we did every day, was having green schools. And we were teaching kids to do it, and they would come back 15 years later talking about how they still eat their whole apple and the core and all of that. And it becomes a culture. And I think that is the success of green schools. It's not the award plaque that goes on the window. It's when it becomes a culture that people talk about in the hallways, when it becomes just a part of the thought process. So when you're buying something, you want to look and see if it's healthy, if it's good for the environment, if you can buy it in a way, like Trevor was saying, where you can use a small amount to make your own chemicals. So you're not buying them in you're not buying them in small bottles and throwing those away. And I think that's the trick when you come to a new organization, is to look at the successes that they've already had, because I think we forget to pat ourselves on the back for the green things that we're already doing. And we can get hung up on all the things that we're not doing. And some of those things can be extraordinarily expensive and hard to achieve, and lose track of the fact that the little things are what can make some of the biggest differences. And one of the places I like to start is by looking at the chemicals that we're using in our facilities. Not just cleaning chemicals, but everything, because I think that is a place where we can improve everybody's health. From bathroom scents in the bathroom that are made with chemicals longer than 70 characters, and you don't even know they're benzenes and things like that. And getting that out of the schools makes people healthier. It helps our staff be healthier, and it's just very easy to do, and it's actually no more expensive. So that's really where I like to start, is making sure that the stuff that we're using around our people is making it safe for them. And then from there, it's to listen to people. I love the idea of having this committee, because listening to others talk about what they're doing for green schools makes a huge difference. So that's really where I'm at the Santa Cruz County Office of Education now, is looking at what we've done, what the next steps are, and kind of helping Amity to make our schools green. Amity, I've lost a little track of myself here. Is there anything else you'd like me to talk about?
I think because you work with a team of folks in the maintenance department, do you have advice for school leaders about keeping that team involved in decision making and motivated? And because that can be a real challenge sometimes when it feels like maintenance staff are being handed, more and more to do.
I think involving them in the process is important. The education, teaching them also about why we're doing these things and having a reason for it that isn't just the environment. I think the environment's important, but it's a giant thing that's hard to see. But working with your staff to figure out the benefits to them for switching to being greener. And one of the things I like to talk about with especially custodial staff is that our largest organ is our skin, and it's exposed to all the chemicals that we use every day. And there are studies after studies that show how bad that is for us to use some of the chemicals that we shouldn't be using. And when it becomes a personal health thing, I find that people get very involved very quickly. We at Santa Cruz County Office of Ed, we just switched from using standard mops to microfiber mopping system. And we talked about it as we were making the switch, not because of the buckets and the dirty water. We talked about how it'd be easier for them to mop because they were using a lighter mop. They weren't having to wring it out each time. They were putting new mop heads on. They didn't have to worry about changing dirty mop water. And all of a sudden, it just happened. They loved it. And I think that is the trick to working, is to not just lecture and say, we're doing this because it's green and that's it. Is to talk about how it's going to benefit the organization, how it's going to benefit them. And I've even noticed over time in the different jobs that I've had that I've improved employee attendance by improving the chemicals. You have less sick time, etc.
Wow, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Oops, there goes my phone. All right, and then next I wanted to welcome our last panelists. Thank you so much, Richard. That was great. We have some guests from outside our county. Jay Greenlinger, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, and Brendan Callahan, Director of Bond Programs, Sustainability, Maintenance, and Operations at Oak Park Unified School District down in Ventura County. They are the first Green Ribbon school district in California. So they've been at this for quite a while. And I'm thrilled that they were willing to come and share. They were at an earlier event I was at, and I just emailed right after and was just put out a plea to see if they'd be willing to come and share about how they their leadership from the top and from the bottom is key to where they've gotten so far. So welcome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Amity.
And you can feel free to share your screen too. If you had slides you were going to, you should have access to that.
Great. Yeah, I can and I will. Hi, everyone. I'm Jay. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Just a little over a week ago, I was driving through your neighborhood. We took a family trip up to Monterey and then up to San Francisco. And I'm always wowed by the beauty of Santa Cruz County. And I'm always jealous of folks who live there because you get to see that every day. Brenda and I are here and we're really happy to share about, we're always happy to talk about Oak Park. And we do have a little quick slide deck here that will help keep us organized. And then I'm also going to drop a link to this because there's quite a few links to resources that I want you to have access to here. And I'm really glad that I joined at the beginning of the meeting because I heard about 15 topics that I would plan on covering, but you already covered them, and you'll get to see those Easter eggs, I guess, as we go along. So bear with me 1 second while I find this presentation. There it is. Here's that awkward pause while we
All right, we're seeing it.
All right. Okay. So I was going to keep my notes here, but that's fine. I don't have the patience to figure it out right now. Okay. So anyway, so we were asked to talk kind of about our connection between our students, our classrooms, and then just the facilities as themselves. And we often talk about our campuses being classrooms in and of themselves. And Brendan's work in facilities and maintenance has a lot to do with that. Thinking about what Richard just said about chemicals and what are you using on your school sites. Brendan has a lot to say about that for sure. But real quick, just an introduction to us. Oak Park Unified is a K-12 school district. We serve about 4,500 students across 7 different schools. One of the interesting things about our school district is that about 50% of our students live outside of our boundaries. We're part of the District of Choice program, meaning that anyone who wants to come to our school district can attend, regardless of their zip code, which is a way for us to maintain our enrollment, but also give opportunities to students who live maybe in neighborhoods that don't have the opportunities that we are able to afford our students. Oak Park was founded on an idea of excellence and care for nature. We're nestled in between county, state, and nationally protected lands. Most notably, we sit in the shadows of the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, and we abut the Malibu Creek watershed and quite a number of county protected areas. All of our schools have won all the different colored awards, whether it's blue or gold, in our distinguished schools. And as Amity mentioned, we were the first school district in California to earn the Green Ribbon Award back in 2014. So Amity also talked about kind of the way that we look at all aspects of leadership and all of our goals and moral imperatives, that we lead from the top and we encourage from the bottom, so to speak. And what's important is for the leaders in our school district to all have kind of a unified definition of what sustainability is, what environmental education is, and making a commitment to those topics. On the right hand, you see a picture that includes elementary teachers, high school students, our recently retired superintendent, assistant superintendents, teachers, and board members, all engaged in some goal setting we did with the Green Schools National Network, of which we're a Catalyst member, in developing some goals related to how are we going to make sustainability and environmental education real in our school district and not on the fringe. And we do that by engaging our leaders, by setting goals. I've learned from a leader a long time ago that what gets measured gets done. And our school board has inserted various sustainability and environmental education initiatives into our district goals. When a school board makes something a goal, it becomes the superintendent's goal. When it's a superintendent's goal, it becomes part of their executive cabinet goals. And when it becomes part of our goal on the executive cabinet, it becomes part of our principal goals. When it becomes part of a principal's goals, it becomes part of a teacher's goals. When it becomes part of a teacher's goal, it becomes part of a student's goal. And that's how we really are able to thread sustainability and talk of environmental issues from kindergarten or preschool, really, all the way through 12th grade. Brendan and I also co-chair the Environmental Education and Awareness Committee, which leads a number of community events, like you can see on the left, that are focused on taking care of not only our campuses and beautifying our campuses, but we also co-lead Heal the Bay events, watershed events, and various competitions and other things related to environmental issues. You can tell from the picture on the left that our students are heavily engaged and excited about these topics. And when given the chance to care for our campuses or to care for the natural surroundings, they want to jump in. And we heard from students in Santa Cruz County at the beginning of this meeting. Kids are aware at all ages, they're aware of the necessity of taking care of our environment now more than ever, and engaging them and giving them opportunities to pursue those passions and to take initiative over the environment and their local surroundings is really our job, and to facilitate that. And so while I talked a lot about the people aspect of our work, one important aspect is our campuses. And Brendan leads not only our facilities maintenance and operation, but also our bond programs. And so not only is he responsible for the daily cleaning and maintenance of our sites, but also the improvement and the forward-thinking projects that we put forward through facilities bonds. And so I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Callahan here to talk a little bit about what he's been able to help us accomplish towards these goals.
All right, great. Thanks, Jay. Hey, everybody. My name's Brendan. These are just a couple of projects we wanted to highlight. On the left is the inside of one of our newest classrooms. Uh-oh, Jay, I think we just lost the screen. There we go. On the left is one of our newest classrooms. Now these are, if you look at the ceiling, you can see the rivets of metal. These are actually recycled shipping containers that used to be cargo ships traveling back and forth from China. And so what we do, or one of the things we've been doing lately is getting 3 of these together, pulling them together. They're 8 foot by 40, one shipping container, and we'll put 3 together, remove the interior walls, and then put floor to ceiling windows in them to create a lot of natural light. And we add some wood furniture in there, and that LVT flooring, that appears like wood, and it really softens the classroom. And so the very top image you see there with the tree in the courtyard, those are the shipping containers in the back. And so you can't tell from this picture, but we have 6 classrooms in this courtyard. And these were just recently done last summer over at our middle school. On the bottom, this is actually from the same campus. This is just a photo of some solar panels that we did a few years ago. We have similar infrastructure that we've done at every school site. Most of them are in parking lots and provide coverage for the cars at the same time. Other times they're on the fields. As anyone on this call who's invested in solar, we've really appreciated the gains from it, because what was really nice about this project is we used bond funds to pay for it. And our bond term is 30 years. So we use bond money to pay for it, but our general fund is what pays our invoices for the utilities. So we're able to actually relieve our general fund of that money that would otherwise be going towards electricity. And we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars, close to $1 million every year that we would have to normally pay out of our general fund. So a great investment that we're seeing the benefit from. And then as I'm sure everyone here has been doing it as well, we really kind of went full gear into creating more outdoor spaces for kids. And this is just an example. Unfortunately, this was right after they were put up, and you don't see the seating underneath, but we really tried to pivot and utilize funds to go towards outdoor classrooms. And then just another thing that we don't have a photo of it, but in the sustainability thread, we've tried to look at our watershed and incorporate bioswales and things of that nature. We can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, thanks, Brennan. And one of the things I'm going to add to this is a link to, Brendan maintains a bond website that highlights all of the projects and talks more about the sustainability aspects of those projects. Some of the things you can see very easily, like the solar panels, and others you can't see, like the bioswales, and the water filtration systems under our parking lots and things of a similar vein. So one of the other things that is important for us is to not just talk about sustainability in our, I'm gonna apologize for my dog downstairs. I joked to Brendan that if he's very cute and would steal the show. I didn't realize he was gonna steal the show with his barks. But nonetheless, one of the things that we really tried to make sure that we do is, like I said, not just make this something we do on the fringe or something that is, just related to the cleaning supplies we use. And so we've, over time, built a lot of teacher leadership in terms of classroom instruction and how do we integrate all of these things into everyday learning. And so, for instance, one of the ways that we recognize students at Oak Park High School is through our Green Cord program. And this is a way of recognizing students who take our courses, environmental courses at our high school, and then participate in some kind of civic action related to what they've learned. And it's mostly students who don't have the summa cum laude cords and the honor roll cords. We were able to recognize 15 students last year with the Green Cord for taking these courses and then turning that into action in the community. And of those 15 students, 14 of them, the Green Cord was the sole recognition that they received at graduation. And so what that says to me is that in a high flying high school where students achieve academically at a very high level, we had students who cared about something very important and who were looking for a way to get involved. And we found that and we're able to now recognize them. You'll also see in this presentation a link to our course catalog. And in just the last few years, our teachers have written A through G courses that really speak to our desire to teach environmental issues and civic action. Environmentalism and Literature is a senior English course that begins with Thoreau and ends with Greta Thunberg. Movements of Social Change highlights young students or young children who have been involved in civic action. Own Voices is an English course of a similar vein. And then we've also added to our AP Environmental Science, we've added CP Environmental Science, recognizing that there are a lot more students interested in this topic, but are not interested in AP courses. And then our universal 9th grade course, Foundations of Science, has embedded in every unit the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that were highlighted earlier in Amity's presentation, and the environmental principles and concepts, which Amity also spoke to. And so by embedding these in all the 9th grade course, that means every student at Oak Park High School is not just learning about the SDGs and the EPNCs, but completing project-based learning on environmental issues, and it becomes a universal thing as well. And then one of the other ways that we get students involved is by encouraging social action. And one of our students, after she finished the Environmentalism and Literature course, and she wrote a memo to the superintendent, the Board of Education, to me and her principal. and advocated for a land acknowledgement for our school district. She got deep into reading about the way that Indigenous people were not being recognized, and how their history was kind of being erased, and how we could be responsible for stopping that and reversing it. And so I was able to connect her with an elder from the Ventureño Chumash tribe, which is the Indigenous people who lived where I'm sitting now, well before we were here. And they were extremely supportive and worked with the student over the course of 3 or 4 months to draft and redraft a land acknowledgement that now lives on all of our official district documents, and is being put on a plaque that will be at all of our school sites, also including original artwork from the Ventureño Chumash elders. And so this student was 17 when she started this. Now she's at college, and she has been given really a trampoline on which she can continue to take action and create change in her community. And Brendan, you want to talk a little bit about how we continue to support students as they take action?
Yeah, I'll give everyone one more 30-second break from Jay until I hand it back to him. So just, you know, and I want to echo, you know, I've only been with the school district for 3 years, but, you know, one of the connections I'm making right now is the importance of, I think, you know, I heard it from a lot of other people about getting the board involved, getting leadership involved. Jay made the point of, you know, goal setting and having that trickle down. One of the things that was made very apparent to me by the superintendent at the time was you and Jay need to be like in lockstep together. And that was really interesting, you know, coming in at the time as director of sustainability, maintenance and operations, you know, bond programs fell into my lap like a year later, but, you know, coming in knowing that like I need to be building a relationship with our director of curriculum seemed very, you know, out there to me. But I quickly understood why, and it was because we had already done so many great things in infrastructure building. We had more to do when it came to sustainability. But the next level of this is how do we get the kids to understand why solar panels are really that important? Yeah, it's great on the bottom line. It does all these things, but the next level is passing it on, right? And so that's where Jay and I are often brainstorming, you know, how do we want to do this project? Is there a way to build this in a way that like tells a story at the same time? Is there a way to like, you know, weave in this into the infrastructure? And then what kind of interpretive signage can we do? You know, just thinking through these things as thought partners is, I think like another thing I would highly recommend, like the maintenance people start having conversations with curriculum. So some of the things that we've done, most recently, this was taken maybe a week ago. That's me in the in that photo there with one of our students and his dad. He just purchased, or he just made some raptor perches, about 30 of them that we're going to put all around our district. In the middle, we've got some middle school students at a nearby creek where they're removing invasive crayfish. And that's being supported by one of our middle school science teachers, who's also on our environmental education and awareness committee. And then some of the other things we've done are, you know, working with the kids when they have an idea. There's Eagle Scouts, you know, who are looking for projects, and we a lot of times encourage them, hey, let's do something that's sustainable. So, you know, over the last 2 years, one of the things we've done is owl boxes, you know, helping, you know, partner with the local rep from the National Park Service and having that person put a lot of input into the project and helping the student develop a connection there, and then also learn along the way. And then another one was installing irrigation on a vacant hillside and creating a orchard that could then be utilized by our school nutrition program. And so that took some coordination with understanding, you know, irrigation and the right, you know, amount of water that these plants need to receive, and then also working with our director of student nutrition to find out, you know, what grows well in this area, what could actually be served on the menu, those sort of things. And then Jay was really involved in in this project as well, which was Save the Bees. And this was one of our students who basically started a club at the high school and filled out an application, got money to create a area on campus that could be a habitat for bees, and created a hive and a little place where they could nest and lay eggs. And that was just another really terrific opportunity for that student, who ended up later getting a sustainability scholarship that pays him $1,000 per year to attend college, because he's going into a field in environmental focus. So I guess here it's just we look for encouraging the students, but we look for ways to support them, and I'm sure everyone here is doing that. But these are just some of the things that we've done recently. Now I'll hand it back to Jay to close up.
Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, we could go for hours talking about the student actions that we support, and they just seem to multiply every year, and it's really the most invigorating thing. As we all said in that wordle at the beginning, we do this because of the kids, and having them involved and letting them pursue their passions and make a difference is the greatest reward. And so to kind of wrap it up, I think it's important to know that while this is our experience, there are a lot of school districts across the state and the country, and a lot of schools who are doing this work and have been doing it even longer than we have and do it better than we have. And we had the opportunity to work alongside a lot of these people over the last few years in our work with the Green Schools National Network. And we got together with a number of these schools and these other leaders, and we put our stories together in a book that just published. And we don't get anything for the sales of these, so except for a feather in our cap, I guess. But I would recommend that you look up this book. Again, that'll be linked in the presentation. But and just seeing how different schools in different areas, rural, suburban, urban, big, small, private, public, charter, 1,000 different ways of how schools are doing this work and making it work for their community. And so I would encourage you to give a read and see how this is happening, not just in Oak Park, but in places all across the country. And I wanted to share that with you because it's work that we're proud of, and it's work that we want to see continue. And the more people we inspire to do this work, the more that we learn, because building these connections allows us to see what other people are doing and learn from them. Because we have some of the ideas, but not all of them. And so we just appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and hope that if you ever come down to Ventura County, that you can make your way to Oak Park, and we'd love to host you and walk you around our campuses. And with that, Amity, I just want to say thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for sharing all your inspiring work. And I couldn't agree with you more about, I really think the key is coming together, all the different people trying to do this work, coming together and sharing what works. And that's the way we'll all manage to accomplish more than we could ever dream of. So that's why I'm so excited about this Green Schools Working Group. So thank you for sharing, bringing that into our story here. I think we'll just take like a 2-minute stretch break because you've all been listening for quite a while, and at 5:15, let's restart. But do make sure you come back, because Brooke Wright is going to share about the free technical assistance that they provide to schools to green their facilities and get green business certification. It's an amazing program. They've been helping us at the County Office of Education. And so she's going to share about that right after we have this quick break. So 5:15, you can turn off your cameras, take a little stretch. We'll restart.
Amity, they put the link to their presentation in the chat. Might
Awesome.
be cool to add to the document that has all the links for the people.
Yep. Yes, I will definitely send that out in the follow-up with everything. Thanks, Heather.
I am greening schools. And that'll be utilizing some funds that we just, as of a few weeks ago, received from the state. So we're really excited to kick off and start working with a lot more schools on a district level. So yeah, just a brief overview of what the Green Business Program, or sorry, the Green Schools Program is in Santa Cruz County. We have partnered with the Coastal Watershed Council, and I believe they'll be presenting at the next meeting to share a little bit more on exactly the part of the Green Schools program that they deliver on. But basically, we cover working with campuses to green facilities and ensure that the local resources that are available to schools get to the schools. We coordinate audits, consultations with experts in energy and solar and in waste management, composting, all of those kinds of things. We work with campuses to get them those audits and those meetings with experts. And basically, along the lines of some of those frameworks that were introduced earlier, our program tries to address all aspects of sustainability, both in terms of environmental sustainability, but also in terms of financial. So I sometimes think of it as it's not all like this, but I sometimes think of it as an analog program. We try to find those low-hanging fruit. What are some easy, low-cost ways, things that get overlooked sometimes by, more technological solutions to environmental issues. We try to find those simpler methods to be able to drive efficiency, lower utility costs, all of those kinds of things. So that said, we do customize the program so that we can, work with whatever a specific campus or business has. We are really happy. We have a database where any campus that's enrolled in our program is able to track their changes. So if, for instance, a campus starts out not using more toxic cleaning products and then switches to the ones that are less toxic, then we'll have a calculation on the back end of what was the environmental impact of that. So we capture how much square footage was impacted by that. And we're able to generate a report at the end of, showing what happened over the last year or the last 4 years, however long, saying, here's all the impacts of these changes that actually took place at this campus. Greenhouse gas emissions, water conservation, it runs the whole gamut on sustainability. So that's one of the tools that we have. And we also hope that it becomes a sort of hub so that the applicant can, or anybody, it can be a whole team of the committee of people working on the certification, including students, can access it and find the documents and the resources that led to their certification. So that's sort of the overview of what the program is. We are a mix of state and county and city, depending where the school is, funded. And one of the nice things we have, especially recently from the state, is we have these little micro grants that can help offset some costs. And those can be fun to engage students with too, to, if there's, let's say it's a high school and you're engaging a class to work on the certification, say, and you have a budget of $500 or $1,000, depends what the school is, but to be able to buy, some kind of, maybe it's buy some art supplies to be able to mark some, stormwater drains with, signage to make sure people don't let things go to the ocean. We've seen those really cool art projects that have been done before. Anything like that can be things that the program microgrants would cover. So we've certified, I think, about a dozen schools in the county in the past. And we have quite a few schools that we're working with right now on certification. And one vision that we have is that we'll be able to have students that are involved be able to present the results of getting certified to the Board of Supervisors at some point. So that's sort of on the ticker for us to be able to do that sometime, you know, given the pandemic. It didn't look like it would happen this academic year, but we definitely hope to do that next academic year. And I think I'm just seeing if there's anything else. I just want, yeah, one other main point I wanted to make is, yeah, working with the students, that's definitely a big goal for us. That's one reason we're partnered with Coastal Watershed Council, and we had an opportunity to connect with Amity's Youth Engagement Action Group, the high schoolers that were presented in the beginning. YEA, I just forgot what the acronym was, but they just expressed so much passion for being able to see the change on their campus that they know is important to see in the world, to see, you know, that composting is taking place, or at least that organics are being separated out, to see, you know, that there's solar panels, all of those visible signs of a commitment from the school. Just, it was really clear that that's really important to them. So we really are eager and willing to work with schools wherever the starting point is, and with districts wherever the starting point is. Sometimes we find, I don't know if this happens as much with schools, but we've definitely seen with businesses, they don't want to sign up because they're, oh, we're not green enough yet, or, oh no, we want to get our, you know, EV charging stations in first, because they think we're there to just sort of be a stamp of approval at the end and give them a recognition. But we're actually here to support those efforts, and we have a lot of resources at our disposal. So we're actually here to help project manage the whole task at hand. So wherever the school is starting, or wherever the district is starting, we hope that we can partner and be able to set out an action plan and make things happen. So I think that's about it for me. I definitely, if Jackie is on the call too, you're welcome to also pitch in if you have anything you want to add. Jackie's been participating and working with some schools, having site visits already.
So I definitely want to add that being a part of Amity's group of students was really great. I personally went to the PVUSD here in the county. I graduated from Pajaro Valley High School, and I was one of those students. I wish that there was a club like, you know, what Amity has for the county, so that I could be a part of it. I feel like that is really empowering the students, and it was really cool to see that they want this change. So I am really excited to see that all of you are here, because hopefully we will get right to working and making our entire county green, have green schools. And, you know, this is really inspirational. Just as coming from a student, we want these students to grow up and come back to this county and make a big difference. And I am excited for what at least the students that we met, what they're going to do, because their passion for changing their schools, for getting composting in their schools is inspiring. And I am excited.
Great. Thank you, Jackie. So yeah, I think that's it, Amity. If anybody has any questions, I'm hoping when we go into, I think we're going to do breakout groups. I'm really hoping that we get to talk with some of you about what could be our next steps. Maybe we have a small cohort. We can do an info session for anybody. You know, we can figure out some next steps. So it'd be good to hear.
Yeah, we have breakout rooms planned next. And so definitely we have one set aside just for people who might want to talk with you about the Green Schools program and start making plans. But before we go into those breakout rooms, I just wanted to see if there were any burning questions from the group at large or clarifying questions before we transition to the smaller groups. Anybody? Okay, then
Can I make-
let me,
Can I
yeah,
make
go
one
ahead.
more quick, yeah, just one
Of
more
course,
quick.
yeah, while I pull up my
announcement I realized.
slides, yeah.
One exciting thing is that with that extra state funding that's coming specifically to work on green schools in this region, is we were able to allocate some of it to create a sort of local green schools branding project. And I think that would be really fun to be able to have more, more of you involved in. But something that'll be, we have our green business branding, but we want to do something that's green schools, that's going to, really touch the kids and be inspired by them. And maybe they'll be the ones to come up with it in the first place. But just wanted to let you know that's part of the funding. And that's
so
it.
excited about that. That ties in perfectly with the BWET grant that our County Office of Education is planning to put together. So we'll have to keep talking, and I'll share more info about that with all of the districts. We're right at the start of it, of writing that. So I'm going to just share my screen one more time here to give instructions for the breakout rooms. We wanted to give you all a chance. That was a lot of information, from my presentation to the panel to Brooke's information, all of that. And so want to give you some chance to digest a little bit with each other. So I've put together breakout rooms that are by district that you'll be able to choose the room you want to go to. So if you want to talk with your district team, you can just select to go to your district breakout room that has that name. There's also a private school group, because we have some individual private schools that are here, or if you're a singleton, for whatever reason, you could go with that smaller group. If you want to chat with other folks thinking through what we just heard about. And then we have the groups for the technical assistance questions, and talking with Brooke about how to work more with these outside organizations. We have representatives from Green Waste here that can help with waste reduction. And so all of these groups work together, like Brooke was saying, to support schools. So there's a room for that as well. And then there are some spare rooms too. If for some reason you think there's not a choice for you and you want to be plunked into another room with someone to talk further, just let us know. And then while you're in that breakout room, a suggestion is to talk about what you got out of those presentations. And there are these tools in the slide deck, which is going into the it already went into the chat. These are all linked on slide 27. The resources that we talked about. So if you wanted to look at those elements of those frameworks, to think about where your district is at, or whether you might want to adopt one of those frameworks to use their guiding principles, or maybe you want to look at the list of the green schools and the program brochure, and talk about next steps to work on with the county green schools program before jumping into the room with Brooke. That would be fine too. There's also, I want to share this green ribbon project management tool, which is from San Mateo County Office of Ed. I work really closely with them. They're the only other county office really with a 100% time environmental literacy coordinator. And they're doing fantastic work. And so their Climate Corps fellow put together this project management tool that breaks down the application from Green Ribbon schools into the different pillars, and the different questions are linked in the document. So you can see what the questions are for each of those elements. And it also makes a recommendation of the people who would be involved in writing a response. So who might, it wouldn't be that all those people have to be, but those are all people who might potentially be involved, and what types of resources you might need to track down to answer those questions. So that tool is there to take a look at if you're interested in thinking ahead toward Green Ribbon school applications. The cycle is November that they're due every year. So the spring is a good time to start thinking about it. And there's also a local board resolution template created by Youth for Environmental Action last year that they presented to the county board school board association that outlined all of the things that they would hope to see schools addressing that relate to environmental literacy and sustainability. So they've put together a template resolution that a board or a district could consider using. All right, so when I open the breakout rooms, before I do that, any questions? We'll have about 15 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we'll just come back and have a quick wrap up and get you out of here before 6 instead of going all the way to 6.